Prioritization. That's a big one. Yeah.
And the trade-offs with regards to prioritization, right?
Yeah. I probably said yes to too much.
Well, no, it's once again it's off the cuff, right? So,
Yeah.
it's neither it's not a right or a wrong, you know.
I meant departmentally. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
sometimes as a leader, I've said yes too much. And one of the things we talked about last week with the leadership team is about this year. What I like about my team is that we are aggressive with our goals. But I think we were doing too much. So this year we need to scale back and figure out what we're going to focus on.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Well, can I just say that you don't say yes too often? Okay. No, so,
MSA.
and we will not edit this one out whatsoever. That was a continuation of a discussion. So, question number 3.
All right.
Okay.
Let's do this.
Next, game 3. Execution reality inside your organization. So, what are the leadership implications? So, the editorial lens that we're trying to push here is to reveal and describe the reality around the execution reality inside an organization.
Okay.
So, how do you communicate we need to move faster without triggering defensive behaviors across functions?
Damn, great question. You got to find common goals and alignment. I know that sounds like a cookie cutter response, but you have to communicate urgency, be sensitive to what people might get defensive about. But if the target is real, there is a collective, like we're all part of this. And, I think that goes back to the culture. And I think we have good culture. Again, I was in a meeting the other day where one of the SVPs reminds the physician group that there's a lot of reasons why we need to lower our costs, not just a supply chain reason. And I think that's great, and I'm very grateful for that. It was an organic conversation. But yeah, I think people are going to get defensive. I don't know how you stop that. I don't.
Is it a case of not necessarily stopping it, but, the style of actually communicating it to being collaborative is one approach. And to your point, the culture is something. So describe for me then, if the culture is great in a setting and, that person was coming to, I suppose, to the mission of what you actually want to achieve. I was about to say to the defense. So that's why, I flipped my view. So how did it get to that point? I know that you and ChristianaCare, to that degree, because culture takes a long time to
It
get
does. No, I think you just hit on something though. So I think the culture is really good there, very collaborative. I think there's a really good sense of unified mission and annual targets that people agree to. I had a meeting with an SVP yesterday around how, supply chain may be coming short here, so there's other groups trying to help out, and like that's great.
Yep.
But going back to your question around how do you communicate urgency without people feeling defensive or offending people, etc. I was just chatting about this over lunch today, actually.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think makes healthcare supply chain special is the amount of, especially the sourcing professionals, the amount of negotiation we do externally and internally. And I think I think when you're negotiating with vendors, obviously there's a goal there, and there's a win-win hopefully. But then internally, if you're suggesting, probably not pushing, if you're suggesting a target, and let's say you get a no, that's fine. I think one of the things, a no is never just a final no for me. I think there's always an opportunity to say, okay, if this is not an opportunity, and there's a bogey of 20 million, and I'm asking you to help me with 5% or 10% of that goal, are you open to other opportunities? Is there something else you're working on? And I think that consistent dialogue is important. And I think that helps. I think when people realize that you're just trying to do the right thing, people get a little bit more open.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's something that we do pretty effectively in a collaborative culture.
Does that lean a lot towards the mission statement of the company around, what you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, it does. I think Christiana's values of love and excellence is big. I think people want to help. I think it's easy to have difficult conversations. And it's happened a lot. It's happened with some of our work together, right? I think sometimes people may not want to tackle something for whatever reason, and then you know it's a yes and or a no and, and you go somewhere else. And I think I don't know how they got there, but they got there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a really good culture.
Yeah, I was with another supply chain executive, and we were talking about the impact of certain hospitals have on the overall system, but the view that, let's say, you might have two underperforming hospital systems because of, let's say, the patient mix, but one hospital is actually carrying the rest. And the pride that they have around other hospital systems that are helping other hospital systems that are not necessarily in the best financial position just shines through. The passion is just incredible.
So let's stay on that. Actually, that's an interesting conversation because that happens in the physician space a lot. What do you do when a physician is a rock star? Like, what do you do with the Michael Jordan of your organization? Is it unrealistic that they get more? That sometimes people those physicians can ask for more because they're driving higher values for the organization? Is it fair for the hospital that might be driving significantly more to the bottom line? And then how honest or transparent can you be around why certain people get more resources? I think that's an interesting dynamic across organizations.
So, that's also a really good point because that can destroy culture as well.
I know. So it's a tough balance, but it's a real one, right? I
So how do you trade off with that? Well, how do you see that? Do you have that sort of trade-off inside your organization?
I haven't experienced that as strongly. I've worked at other organizations where we know there's a specific physician that does a ton of volume. Maybe they bring in cash patients as well. They got a reputation, and they're not shy about it. They know that they drive a ton of value towards the P&L. I think I've also seen that with service lines, specific service lines that drive a lot of value. I'm personally okay with that.
Yep.
I think that you can transparency to me builds culture and honest conversations. And if you can have an honest conversation about why a certain service line, deserves more capital allocation, that capital allocation towards that service line impacts the entire IDN.
Right.
I'm okay with that as long as it doesn't become over the top and blatant. But I don't know. I think competition breeds excellence.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it exists everywhere. The Michael Jordan example is a real one.
It is.
Yeah.
Very true.
And that happens.
Done.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, Jeremy. Game 3.
Game 3.
Game 3.
All right.
No. We're just warming up now.
Yeah.
Just warming up. The key question about this one is execution reality inside organization. Okay. So we're looking for the leadership implication. So the editorial lens that we're trying to look at is reveal and describe reality. So how do you communicate that you need to move fast, without triggering defensive behaviors inside your team? So yeah.
That's a good question. Cost, value, money, right? Like that's one of the ways you do it, like moving fast, like waiting 6 months to do something, or really even things like if I can save, another 2%, but it's going to take me another 6 months of back and forth. By the time you say that, the time value of money, you already actually lost more than if you would have booked it,
right,
seen that money and seen the benefit of that. So that's one of the ways, just getting them to think that way.
You get pushback?
Yeah, because people, it is a challenge for people to think that way because there's a benefit, like you get a lot of people that are more of that perfectionist mindset, right? That they always want to like lock in. So I definitely have that pushback. Have to deal with that. So it's a constant remessaging and talking through that because you still want that. You still want them. You want to execute as close to perfect as possible, but striving for that last couple percent can often lead to actually more lost value than if you just executed and moved on. Because it also, and the other thing is it restricts you from, you can only do so many things at a time, right?
Yep.
And if you knock that off, you can't move to the next thing on your list. So
well, that's the interesting part, right? Because you get the tension.
Yes.
the healthy tension or unhealthy tension associated with that.
Yeah.
Because, do I wait till the data's perfect? I don't actually have the time to actually just complete that. Right. Well, that's good enough. So that sort of, that execution reality with regards to, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, providing a little bit more of a headroom with regards to possible mistakes.
Yes, you do have to do that. That is a fair question. You have to also give them cover, saying, "I'm okay with you. You didn't get it to. You got it to 98, not 100. Like,
yeah,
that's okay. We need to move on because of we need to prioritize and move on to this next thing. The value's there. I think giving that and them seeing you do that is a way to do. Because otherwise you just ask it and then you're going to come back to me like, you should have got 100%. Like, yeah, that's, then that's not, that ruins your ability to inspire your team for sure.
Yeah. Well, one, inspire, but I suppose at the end of the day, it may hurt them in their back pocket because bonuses are based on you didn't perform.
Yeah.
You made 98% versus 100 or whatever. So how do you deal with that sort of conundrum? Is it quite an honest conversation?
That conundrum, but that is where you can still get to the savings target. It's just laser focusing on that initiative and maxing that out versus like can tackle another initiative and get it. The more you can lock in, you can actually knock those out. Obviously, if you want to do them well, but you don't have to do them perfectly. So it's balancing that out. And it does, I think it's continually talking about that too with them. Yes, I do.
And they're receptive?
Some more than others, It's not like some are more wired to be that perfectionist mindset, right? Like they're wired that way. They're not comfortable.
Are you comfortable?
Am I comfortable? I used to not be comfortable with it, to be honest. I was one of those people that wanted perfection, right? Yeah. But
because didn't you feel that perfection got you to the role that you are now?
I think execution got me to the role that I am now.
Right.
Not necessarily perfection on execution. Execution and delivering success multiple times, not just hitting the bullseye perfectly one time, is what does it. So I think I got more comfortable with that, like letting go of that because I can, and you can always revisit things when it comes around again, because the cool thing about what we do is every 3 years it comes around again. So you can revisit it and see if you can knock off that piece versus just drag it out trying to. So I do think that's a mindset that I had to go through. So I understand it when I see it, right? So,
and how did you break that down with regards to getting comfortable with it? So give the audience a little bit more, especially the younger people that are looking at this, because you hire some very highly powered, talented people. The goal to actually get perfection, for example, need to get the highest exam mark. Because I want to actually make the next best class or get into the best college. And then you're coming into a situation where, 85% is good enough. Quick, let's move on to the next one.
Yeah. And I think it's you need to do things well, but you need to do things. I think what broke it for me was you do hit a point in your career where the things piling up of what you need to deliver on starts exceeding moving in that perfectionist kind of way, right? Like where that pressure is so strong all the time that you have to start looking yourself and saying, I need to delivering perfectly on one thing instead of delivering 95% on 10 things. Like that has way more value, and I can be okay with it, and I can explain it, right? Like even to myself, I can explain it to myself. I can explain it to my leadership and say, yeah, I could have kept fighting for that, but doing so restricted me from doing this, and the value, by the time we would have got to it, it wouldn't have paid off. Like time value of money, it's just not there. And I did have a CFO that also always reminded me, cash is king, time, value, money. So that also got my thinking.
Yeah.
So that did help a lot.
Yeah. I suppose also that comes down with maturity and earning some of the stripes and everything else that's there.
Yeah.
So when you talk about, and it's funny enough that you say accepting good enough because perfect control would cost more.
And don't let perfection be the enemy of good, for sure.
Yeah, and some of the compromises that you would have to make, right? Just the last sort of view. If you actually think about the internal friction that's there, it's the real limiting factor. What is the real limiting factor at this point in time? With regards to you progressing and, let's say, making some of these decisions.
What is the real limiting factor that I have right now? What do you? I guess I don't fully understand the question. Like, what do you mean? Like,
So when you're doing from an execution perspective, and you got to try and make some of these decisions right now. What would be some of the limiting factors of your decision making?
I see. Yeah. The biggest one is a lack of data, like lack of sound data to make informed decisions, because it's very uncomfortable to be like pushing for a decision, especially if you're putting name, reputation, putting yourself at risk, to be like, I'm not comfortable that what I'm pushing for is fully accurate or based on that. Like that is probably that is usually the real limiting factor.
Because there's a lot to actually unpack.
Yeah, there is.
Because the reality is,
it's never 100% of that either.
Yeah, but does the other person on the other side actually have better data? That you're actually trying to actually make that justification. So we can leave it at that, because I think that's
that is a whole nother
ball game with regards to decision making.
Yes, agreed.
Cool.
All right.
Done.